Back again for episode number 4 of the Dream 3 podcast. Well, tonight's just two of us. It's just myself and Neil, Doughboy Sports Cards, but we do have a guest here coming up here in a little bit. So, Neil, we're right here right now. We're watching the U.S. Open. I had money on Rory McIlroy coming back. It's not looking good for me. Bryson DeChambeau completely sucks, but John Rahm can putt the damn ball. What do you think?
So, John Rahm, well, since he was here at the Memorial and he got called off right after he was done that third round, he didn't get he had to withdraw. He has been furious. So he brought that intensity back, drained the last two putts on the 17th and 18th to basically take the lead. Louis got a chance on 18. He's going to 18 right now, so he's got a chance to try and tie him up. But I think John's got it in the bag. So
I agree.
It was an exciting day of golf. Very exciting.
I think John totally deserves to win this match. Obviously, when he got pulled, he was in the lead for the last tournament, and
yeah, he was up by like 8 strokes.
Yeah, so
he's
coming in with a vengeance, definitely well deserved. So hopefully it pulls out in the end. Let's just dive into a couple quick sports takes that we didn't get to go to last week. We saw early in the news Vince Wilfork's son got arrested by Vince Wilfork for stealing Super Bowl rings, for memorabilia, going out and selling it. Now, I remember watching Vince Wilfork's son. He was a walk-on at the University of Houston. He was a linebacker and got kicked off the team for codeine and cocaine. So I understand that Vince came from the University of Miami back in the good University of Miami days when that stuff was going on. Obviously, it does not translate well over to his son. Got thrown out of the University of Houston. Now doing this, it sounds like he is on the wrong path. Man, that sucks for someone young making stupid decisions like that, especially when your dad is probably one of the greatest defensive tackles of all time.
Well, I mean, he's right now. I mean, what happened last year in the NBA playoffs? Like Bronny was caught smoking a blunt on what was it, Instagram or something
on
like
Twitch or something like that. Yeah,
something stupid, throwing their lives away.
Absolutely,
they got all that greatness and they're throwing their lives away. Absolutely.
So a couple other things. So Anderson Silva boxed Julio Cesar Chavez last night. I think the fight was at 180 pounds. Silva won on a controversial split decision. Controversial as in Silva should have won all 3 rounds, but I don't know what judge was watching Julio.
Well, that's boxing for you. Boxing's judges are horrendous. Like it's bad in MMA sometimes, but boxing is god awful.
It's absolutely trash. And watching Silva pick apart and move around the ring like a young Roy Jones Jr., it was great to see him back in full force, not having to deal with leg kicks, not having to deal with takedowns, but purely stand-up striking. And he just outboxed Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., which was awesome. And I saw later on after that, Logan Paul even congratulated and wanted to see Anderson Silva versus Roy Jones Jr. on the undercard if him and Tyson got to fight. And I personally, as a fight fan, even though Roy Jones is past his prime, Anderson does not seem past his prime, but you never know. But I would love to see that matchup, Roy Jones Jr. versus Anderson Silva.
It would be fun. I mean, we all know. I mean, me and you grew up in the Anderson days where it was like he couldn't get touched by anybody, and then it felt like he was just hitting you with nothing, and he was knocking people out cold. I mean. He was just tapping you on the face, and you were just getting knocked down. So, I know Anderson can fight. I know he could box. I know he's got great stand up. I mean, why not put it to the test? Why not try something else out?
I'd love to see it. I kind of agree. Roy is washed up. He still has speed. I don't think he has power and endurance anymore. Power is the last thing to go. But Roy, if depending on how long the fight is, if you watch the fight against Tyson. The first 2-3 rounds, Roy looked pretty good. After that, he looked pretty damn tired. That could be ring rust, but he was in the ring, or he had fought earlier than Tyson had. So still, I want to see it. One more boxing note coming up. I watched the Wilder Tyson Fury press conference. Wilder not wanting to take any questions. He's saying, he's not going to talk going up to this fight. That's well and dandy, but here's the problem. You got to sell the fight. How and why am I going to buy a fight that I just watched you get punked last time? You had to quit, and Mark Breland did the right thing, throwing in the towel, getting your ass out of there before Tyson Fury killed you. Before, in the very first fight, the only reason why it was close was because you got the last second knockdown, and still I think Tyson Fury came back and won that round. So going into the third fight that you had to fight legally to come get, you have to talk, sell this fight. You don't have to talk trash, but give me something to hype me up. It can't just be Tyson Fury altogether.
It's gonna be. I mean, the guy just wants money. Deontay's probably running out of his $100 million they made on the last fight, and he needs the money right now. And he's probably not going to win. He's just, you got a fighter like Tyson who's more skilled, more well-rounded, knows how to pick his punches, knows how to wear you down. And Wilder's just a guy who just swings for the fences, and that's why he got caught. That's why he lost.
For sure. Well, that's coming up next month. Looking forward to that. But, let's get right into this. Is the Dream 3 podcast. So there needs to be 3 of us. So
that's right.
With Fat Boy Dylan not here, we got a special guest. Neil, I'll let you introduce who we got coming out here tonight.
So we've mentioned him a couple times before in our podcast. Good friend of mine. Very, very knowledgeable guy, Justin, SquintsSportsCards. I thought it would be great to have him on as our first guest. Great for the hobby. Great guy. And I think he's got some insight that we can share with everybody. But also I just enjoy, he's got a great perspective on cards that are undervalued and low pop cards that, you just don't ever think of. And I just thought it'd be a perfect guest for our first time. So let's bring on Justin.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, brother. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Appreciate you guys having me.
All right. First off, did you guys catch Game 7 last night, Bucks versus Nets?
Yeah, that was a crazy game.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, man. And I really felt like the refs were kind of, I don't know, it was just such a close game coming down to the wire. KD showing up, and when I see people posting their stories even after the Nets lose, just like, hey, KD's that guy. That just tells you how crazy that game is, right? Because usually you see the overreactionary stuff. Like Giannis is overrated when he loses, but everybody was just positive about that game for both the Nets and the Bucks.
Yeah, no, KD was playing out of his mind. He was the only guy on that team who was carrying. I mean, what was it? What happened in Game 5? They were down 20 points or something like that? And Jeff Green hit 7 of 8 threes in Game 5. So obviously you weren't going to have Jeff Green hit 7 of 8 threes again, in a Game 7. So it had to come down to KD. KD, did as much as he could, but you can't buy your super teams and buy your championships this year. Don't have to wait another year for that.
Yeah, that's funny. And it's funny because you talk Jeff Green. It seems like this whole playoffs, there's been different games where these random guys are stepping up. Terrence Mann for the Clippers.
Yep.
Even Reggie Jackson, man, every day dropping 20, 25 points. He averaged 10 points during the regular season. So it's just it's cool to see these guys step up that, have the potential, and then they're given the chance, and then they shine on the brightest stage.
Yeah. No, I think it's good to see some of this young talent and see some of these old veterans. I mean, you had Chris Paul coming out and scoring 37 in a game, and I can't remember the last time I saw Chris Paul score 30 points in a playoff game, let alone not get injured. So, I mean, it's great to see this stuff. There was a time 3 or 4 years ago where the parity in the NBA was just so bad because it was LeBron and it was the Warriors, and then KD goes to the Warriors, and it was like why even watch the NBA? So it's nice to have that parity back where you got essentially 8 teams who can win a championship. And it's nice to see, you know, LeBron's not there, KD's not there, and you're going to have someone new win this year, which is great. And I like that. I think that's good for the NBA, and it's good moving forward. It kind of shows, you know, that these guys, they are human. LeBron is human. Kevin Durant is human. And eventually we're going to have a new wave of superstars. So it's exciting to see. Definitely. So, Justin, I'm going to have you kind of give your little story about, you know, how you started sports cards, when you started sports cards, you know, if you got back into the hobby later on, and then just kind of, you know, what you collect, what's your PC. We'll start with that.
Yeah. So for me, sports cards have always been, you know, a part of my life. Growing up, you know, it started out just kind of getting the basic kind of Topps baseball sets as a kid for Christmas, ripping some wax. I remember like the 2012, 2013, like Bowman Chrome stuff for baseball. Baseball is always my passion. I played in high school. And then kind of during college, I kind of went away from the sports card aspect. Just, you know, there's a lot going on at university. I was in debt, so it's hard to kind of, you know, especially with how expensive it to become a couple years ago. It was kind of hard to, you know, shell out that kind of money. And then a couple years ago, so I'm 3 years out of college now. So 2 years ago, one of my good friends, he's not even on Instagram, and he just was kind of, you know, just saying, hey, should we pick up a LeBron rookie? And I never really thought of it just because it's been a while. And that just kind of got me into the hobby again. So I just started looking at, you know, going through the progression of like prism-based cards, you know, modern stuff, to then more rare modern stuff, to then look at kind of the undervalued GOATs, and which I think a lot of people felt the hobby kind of transition over the last year.
Yeah.
Kind of where I've been. And for me personally, LeBron James is my favorite athlete. But honestly, with the recent dips and stuff, it's hard for me now. I really want to have like an iconic card. You know, there's so much different product you can get from LeBron. And so it's hard for me to, you know, shell out like $5,000 on like a, you know, for a while, like a Bazooka PSA 10, or, you know, some of those unique cards, you know, to try and find like the undervalued stuff of LeBron's trickier because there's a lot more people in the game. So recently I've kind of gone over to the like positional player stuff for football. So I think that's where there's a huge market gap. And I actually wanted to share something too. So as both you guys know, one of my big pickups recently was the DeAndre Hopkins Shield Auto rookie. So from National Treasures, it's a colossal. I probably spent about a month texting you, Neil, or maybe 3 weeks or so, just going
pretty
back.
long. You were muling whether or not you wanted that card. I know you want it. It's a sweet card.
Yeah, I just kept going back and forth, and then I literally spent hours looking up every single, you know, card in the checklist and stuff. And that's kind of what sparked my interest again. Is I saw somebody in the One of One sports card group on Facebook. I'd recommend joining that group if you're into the rare stuff. Obviously, it's a pretty cool spot. But there's like a Justin Jefferson, like it might have been like a hat, like Shield or something auto. So not even National Treasure. I mean, they're getting 5, 6, 7, 8K for that kind of stuff. So when I went back to the Hopkins, I'm like, man, you know, he said 3,500, and there's only one other Shield auto. You know, I'd consider that the true Shield auto, but just the checklist and today's, like, even the National Treasure stuff, it's deep, man. I mean, there's probably 100 101s. I mean, that's not Shield auto stuff. But when it comes to, like, platinum stuff, you know, laundry tags, you name it, it's a lot deeper now. So that's kind of what spiraled me back to the Hopkins. And, you know, where the state is now with the hobby, it's hard for me to not go after, like, the Shield auto stuff. I was actually watching yesterday. There's an SP Authentic dual logo man with Shaq and Karl Malone, no autographs, so just game worn logos. How much do you guys think that sold for? It was raw.
What year?
I think it was like I don't know. I honestly don't know that.
So would it be Shaq Laker?
It was Shaq Laker and Karl Malone Jazz.
The way
dual logo man,
dual logo man, no autos, raw.
7,500.
Neil?
No, 75K.
75K.
It went for 21 grand. I was absolutely
that's ridiculous.
You know, when I'm sitting here, like, I paid 3,500 for a Hopkins rookie, right? That has an auto on it, and so that's kind of, I think that disparity between like the high end football and basketball, I think we already kind of know that exists.
Yeah.
But then when you delve down beyond the quarterbacks, because quarterbacks are inflated compared to the stud positional players.
For sure.
I mean, I paid like $1,100 for an Adrian Peterson second year National Treasure Shield auto, $1,100. It's like that stuff just feels like no brainer long term stuff because Adrian Peterson arguably is the best running back since Barry. So
yeah, I think you bring up a good point. So I listen to podcasts other than myself, but I think you bring up a good point that there's going to come a time where people start to respect more than just the quarterback market. Like you have plenty of, you got AP, you got Megatron, and you got D-Hop right now, but like those players, like owning those like superstar Hall of Fame type players and owning a shield auto of them is like owning the logo man auto of LeBron James from Upper Deck from 2009. It's the same thing. And I think what you're getting into is something that definitely I see appreciating value as we move forward. Like why wouldn't someone want to hold a game-worn logo or a game-worn shield from Adrian Peterson with an auto on it? Like,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And then one more thing on that too is what people don't realize is, NFL games, right? Now it's a 17-game season, but it's normally 16 games. Careers are shorter. People miss games. So the number of actual game-worn one-of-one stuff, like if you look at the back of cards, whether it's a shield or not, most of it's player-worn, even for the veterans. So if you can find that game-worn stuff, because, like in terms of jerseys, you've got the regular season worn jerseys, and then they got like 2 or 3 player issued per game. So that they're using that most of the time for different patches. So I think if you can find the game worn stuff, on card autos of the legends, there's a lot less supply of that compared to basketball with the longer season.
Yeah, I will say I've definitely noticed it, and we've talked about this too, is with flawless. If you compare like flawless basketball and flawless football, none of the flawless in basketball is the only one that has game used apparel in it, game used patches. In football, there's no game used, none. Like NT, flawless, none of it, no game used, and it's awful to see because that means more in the hobby. And to see Panini basically just say, you know what, screw it, we're just going to put these player patches because people are still going to buy this stuff. It doesn't matter. It's their way of taking the shortcut out of it, and us collectors are kind of getting shortchanged on what's more value and what means more as a part of owning a card. So no, I think you're 100% right. These game worn patches, these game worn shields, legends of the game, they definitely need to be appreciated more, and I definitely see the value in those things going up. Maybe my Aaron Donalds will start going up here soon too.
I hope so.
maybe. So kind of going off of this, what are some things that you've seen in kind of this quote unquote dip, crash, whatever you want to call it, huge recession, market correction, whatever it is? What are some big things that you see people need to take advantage of, and what are some things that people need to understand and maybe educate themselves on, so that way they can better understand the market moving forward, and truly appreciating collecting as a hobby and being a collector rather than just constantly trying to make money off of it?
Yeah. And this is something I kind of talked to you a little bit about, Neil. And I think what we're seeing is the on-card autographs are in numbered cards are kind of maintaining more strength than obviously the base cards. And I think right now, it's not a surprise that the pop reports are there. A year ago, unless you were like super into cards, the average person that, could find wax back in the day, they probably didn't even really understand the pop report a ton. And now it's like everybody's got it bookmarked. It's like you're always asking what the pop is on anything before you buy it. So I think everybody's got that understanding. But the one thing that I think people are missing is there are certain sets that have difficult autographs, right? So in this case, there's actually an auction ending tonight. I may make a Planet, we'll see. But It's a BGS 85 Auto 10 Steph Curry Contenders autograph.
Yeah, me and you were both watching that, just so you know. We've been talking about that for a while.
Right. That's just something I've seen enough of those cards go by. And first of all, like, you know, Steph Curry's rookie year was kind of weird, right? It was a transition from like the Topps era to the Panini era. So there isn't a ton of on-card autographs. I think there's like a, you know, an off-brand like Absolute or something.
National Treasures is a sticker auto. Ugh,
yep.
Yucky.
And there is exquisite, but a lot of that stuff is college uniform too.
Yep.
So it's tough to find an on-card autograph, you know, in the Warriors uniform that's affordable. And that 10 auto grade, I mean, that thing's huge. Like I've seen probably dozens of those. I've never seen a 10 auto until this auction. So that's why I was just messaging you before the show. There's really no way on BGS to sort by auto grade. You kind of got to go through everything. I went through the top 20. I found one with a 10 auto grade that wasn't this one. There's only 151 in the pop report. So that's kind of what leads me to this segue is I think the tough autograph grades and stuff, whether it's, you know, a streaky pen, somebody that signs, you know, really faint, somebody that signs off the card. I think people got to pay more attention to that and use that kind of like the rarity in terms of the pop report. So
I agree.
So I think that's a buy right now. Obviously, you know, with Steph being out of the playoffs, the offseason coming up during the dip, Steph's a great hold, you know, super influential. So I think plays like that is pretty specific, but just to really do your research now, there's always going to be times to buy. And with the market down, I think it's time to kind of load up on some of those Grail type cards.
Yeah, definitely like LeBron, right, Caleb? Just more LeBrons?
I think so. I think LeBron is definitely the play. You could even start thinking of, and I was talking with my brother-in-law today, Luka might even be the play right now. You can find, I was looking at my slabs, you can get an Optic 10 for under $500. So you're looking at, if you're going
notorious for centering issues, not a lot of 10s.
Not a lot of 10s. You can find off my slabs some Luka PSA 10s for under 700, which is nice. If you go off eBay comps, they're anywhere from 600 to 918. I think an auction ended yesterday. So I think Luka's also a good play also.
Yeah. So my big thing, one of the reasons why I brought Justin on was because he's a big LeBron fan, just like me. I mean, you got to respect greatness. You got to know when you see a GOAT, when you see it. And so, no, me and Justin are like-minded on definitely picking up on the LeBrons. Curry's a big one that we've been into a lot. That might end up being our plays at the National. Who knows? We'll see. I mean, we're still talking a lot of money to get those things, but no, I agree. It's interesting. Like there's modern players, right? So you got like Devin Booker, you got Trae Young, you got Luka, who are these modern players. Like what's going to cause them to end up making that transition to being an all-time great? Like what do they need to do? Because like Luka, I mean, even like, I mean, his stuff's way down, but like what's going to cause people to start buying Lukas again or start buying Trae's again? I mean, Trae's Game 7 tonight. What happens if they beat the Sixers and they go on to play the Bucks? Like they have a chance to win a championship now. You know, does that mean that these guys, these modern guys, actually should be respected again? Because there's a huge decline back in January and February when the GOATs started taking off, all the legends started taking off. So do we see another change in the market where these modern guys pick up? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll get that started. I think with just the mass printing of the modern stuff, overall, right, things have dropped, the base cards obviously, but even like, you know, maybe the less desirable stuff like fast break parallels or, you know, non like Prism or NT or, you know, like lower brand stuff. But if you're looking at like a Blue Ice Luka or some like an NT Luka, if you're looking at like the top stuff, I think you still have a ton of people buying at that price and wanting to get in.
Hey, let me ask this too. What do you guys think of people buying like I've seen a blue, like the straight blue, right? Blue out of 199 or the blue of 175. Those seem to be way more desirable, or like the Trae red out of 299, way more desirable than even like the blue ice out of 99 or like the purple out of 75. Like people, like I saw, I don't have the numbers off of me, so don't quote me, but like people are paying $50,000-$60,000 for a blue 9.5 BGS 9.5 out of 199, and they're leaving the blue ice and the blue or the purple out of 75 on the table at 30 grand, 40 grand. So like, does that mean team color matters more than the numbering? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. Like, what do you what do you guys think? I mean,
I think it. I don't know if it. I think it for aesthetically pleasing. Yes, I would say the blue on blue Luka. Absolutely. And we've had this discussion in the past. I'm still taking the lower numbered card out of every single time. I could care less about the color match.
See, I'm on the opposite side. I love the color match. I think that's more desirable. Even if there's 199 copies, you got to think of it like this. Like, there's let's say 100,000 collectors in the world, right? Let's say 100,000 people collect basketball. You own one of 199 at a BGS 9.5 or a PSA 10 or a PSA 9. You own one of those. Like, you're going to be in the top 1%. And that if Luka makes that transition, wins a couple championships or wins a championship, what does that do for that stuff? It just
your pop report's definitely not going to move because it's maxed out at 199 or whatever it is.
Numbered. So like pop report, like at that time, like does pop report really matter when you're talking about 199 versus 99? Like you still own the top 0.0001%.
Yeah, and the other thing you got to remember too is with sports cards, I take a lot of time a longer approach, right? So I buy into something. Obviously, I like something that maybe in the fall for football or a certain situation will go up, and maybe I will move it. But especially with the market correction, everything I buy, I want to be like a long-term asset, right? And 10 years down the road, will people still be interested in this? And when you're talking like a Luka color match true blue out of 199, I mean, eventually that card's going to be sitting on some rich person's, collection or sitting in their bank or wherever. And, the eye appeal is super important for that person, right? Yeah. At some point, whether it's an investor or not, there's something about that where it's like, the purple out of 75 or whatever. It's just, it doesn't look as nice as a blue out of 199. And if somebody's got the money to spend and it's their card, they want just like, it's like a NTRPA, right? So like, if there's like a first off the line, like the stars and stripes, if it just completely clashes with the uniform or something, I'm going to take a true RPA, right? It may be triple the numbering, but it's still that eye appeal that I think people ultimately, especially the high end collectors, definitely appreciate.
Yeah. I agree. Once you get down to the nitty gritty, once these people start making that transition, they start being an all-time player. It comes down to the eye appeal, and it comes down to what the people want.
So Neil, jumping in real quick, and we're talking about, Justin mentioned thinking long-term in investments, and I'm just going through some numbers on Slabstock and some other places. You see a lot of people buying hype, especially in real short terms, like 16 Devin Booker PSA 10 prisms were sold today at $925 at a buy now. You also had, and I can tell you this from experience because you're damn right I dove into my box, you have Terrence Mann PSA 10s selling for almost $400. They had one sell for $400.
If you have Terrence Mann, sell them now. Just sell them now.
Right here, bud.
What the Clippers sell it. Just sell it.
It's up there.
I don't care. I don't care how high it is. I don't care what the skyrocketing is. If you have Terrence Mann, sell him because the Clippers are not getting past the Suns without Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard is not coming back to play.
Yeah, I agree.
And Terrence Mann is not going to be the difference maker. I don't care how good he is. He's not that good yet.
No, absolutely not. It's one of those quick pushes where you got to dive back into the card boxes that you were ripping last year and find like Bol Bol had the quick craze.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure when
Eric Paschal,
Jordan Tucker,
Kobe White.
I'm pretty sure I gave all of those like extra rookie cards
to Ryan.
to Ryan. I gave it to Ryan when he did his shop opening, and he wanted like some donation cards to give to the kids. So I'm pretty sure some kids walking out with like a silver Terrence Mann now worth like $700, and I gave it away.
Send him a bunch of Nick Claxtons.
He probably threw it away too because he's like, I don't want this guy. He's trash.
This isn't Zion.
Yeah, this isn't Zion. Oh man, no, that's good stuff. Good stuff. So if you are paying attention to the playoffs, are you guys buying anything? Because I am not buying anything NBA related right now. I'm waiting for the winner to go. I'm waiting for whoever wins. Great for them. Clap it up. Congratulations. And then from there, I'm buying LeBron. I'm buying Curry. I'm buying for the next season because once the season's over, that stuff's going to tank, and that means more time for me to buy.
Yeah, I'm 100% in football mode right now still. Like I posted on my Instagram, I got a couple Peyton Manning PSA 10s just from SPX that I picked up real cheap. Got a 9 with it and a PSA 8 from his rookie year. Just $135 for 5 cards. And, with Manning, with the Hall of Fame induction coming up, I feel like that's a good, quick turnaround.
Do you guys think do you think NFL is going to go up still come towards August? Or do you think because it's so high right now that it's just how could it go any higher? That's what I think. I'm like, how can football get higher than what it's already at? Like Josh Allen is selling for more than he was in like January when he was playing well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think the Nationals might be the peak of football because in my experience of football, it seems like the preseason around that time is usually the sell point for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Even players that you expect to do well, like, Russell Wilson or, even Mahomes, like a lot of times that value peaks and then throughout the season it comes back. And
right.
I'd have to look at the numbers, but I'm not even sure, during the Super Bowl time, if Mahomes even got up to what he was the preseason hype.
Yeah. No. Well, no, he did. So preseason 2020, 2021 season, he got up to like $8,000 right as the season started, dipped back down to like $5,000, and then skyrocketed to $15,000 when they made the Super Bowl. So if I go back to February 4th, $14,500 on Card Ladder.
Oh wow!
And then if I go back to October 28th, $5,100. $10,000. Like we're talking $10,000 in 2 months or 3 months. That's crazy.
You gotta remember too, though. That's like a Super Bowl bound team. Not. Mahomes was obviously the favorite or a favorite to make it to the Super Bowl, but it just seems like a lot of the guys, like like Russell Wilson comes to mind. He had a peak where, his stuff was really undervalued, then everybody overvalued the heck out of it just for compared to what it was, and now I feel like he's a buy again. I see prices of Josh Allen and I see prices of Jalen Hurts, like the most random kind of quarter. Not that Josh Allen's random, right?
Well, now Jordan Love, right? Jordan Love's taken off. Like people are buying Jordan Love thinking he's going to be the next Jesus Christ out there. Like, dude, the guy hasn't even touched a ball. He didn't even play last year. He didn't even suit up. He was the third string quarterback. Don't start buying Jordan Love. The guy is like, wait till he touches the field. I don't care if he hasn't played a preseason game. Like, why spend your money? Why spend what's it going for? $1,200 for a Contenders auto? You're spending $1,200 on a Contenders auto of a guy who hasn't touched the field.
Well, should I tell my Patrick Mahomes hasn't touched the field card story?
Which was that the immaculate one that you had?
No, that was my 2017 limited football triple patch on card auto at a 149. Sold it for $89. $89.
Caleb, you realize you could have bought yourself a new car by now with that.
I could have put a down payment on another house with that.
You might have a better collection than me if you would have kept that card.
I know, but that was when I was first getting back into it and everything. But I think this transitions to a good subject that I wanted to bring up that we kind of texted about, Neil. So football, and I agree with Justin, I agree with you, Neil, that in football, it's you get your cards, and then mini camp or training camp, preseason, that's your time to start selling. We saw this last year during, I don't want to call it the COVID hype, but just either right before COVID or right when it hit. Everybody got super hyped on buying retail of Prism Draft.
Yeah.
And especially newer people who are coming in trying to flip it quick.
I think that was the big part of it. Was what'd you say? New people. So they were buying up all these cards, all this product. But here's the problem: true collectors don't care. As soon as that professional uniform comes out, that Prism Draft isn't worth anything unless you're an Ohio State fan, unless you're a diehard LSU fan. So unless you're Ryan buying every single Ohio State player, no one cares.
Or you're looking.
I could care less about Trevor Lawrence in a Clemson jersey. No,
but you're looking at like hobby box prices of $415 for. You're going to get 5 autos as some dudes who's undrafted free agents and a 7th round pick.
Yeah, he's 2 weeks from now, he's going to be working at a Walmart, trying to make sure he counts the right amount of people going in and out of it. Some of these people are going to be nobodies here soon.
So that's my quick rant. A draft hobby or draft Prism.
Yeah, do not buy anything.
If I hate a product, it is that product. Because when I came first back into it, we bought up everything that we had, whether it been contenders. Now I kind of like contenders, but draft Prism, it was just like trash.
Well, that's the thing is Panini puts out they do contenders, they do Prism, they do Immaculate, they do National Treasures, and they do Flawless, all in college uniform, and then they come out with all the NFL.
And then Leaf has their own.
Yeah. It's
terrible.
It's just a way for Panini to make money and try to get all these newbies to buy into something that's not worth anything.
For sure.
Speaking of draft, just a unique one. Do you guys consider Luka Doncic, with his EuroLeague uniform in the draft product where he has a rookie auto? Do you give that the same level of criticism as a college uniform, or do you think
I'll give it the same level as criticism when Luka Doncic ends up being Michael Jordan, and then they start having the debate about the XRC 1984 star card. Until that happens, I could care less about Luka Doncic in a EuroLeague. Give me Mavs Luka Doncic, and that's it. That's all I care about.
Yeah,
same way with Giannis.
Janice. Yeah. I could care less about Janice and his greasy or whatever Greek uniform. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter. Don't care. So, I did have something I was going to say. Oh, Tom Brady. Is Tom Brady a buy? Because Mahomes has maintained this level of trajectory that keeps going up, and people still buy his stuff. And are people forgetting that Tom Brady just won his 7th Super Bowl and is the greatest quarterback of all time? Probably, arguably, the greatest collector piece of all time. Tom Brady has 1, 2 on-card autos in his entire card collection, and undervalued significantly compared to every basketball card. Is Tom Brady truly a buy? And I've talked to Justin about this. I've talked to Caleb about this. I feel like I need to get a Contenders auto. Why wouldn't I try and get a Contenders auto right now? Because that's going to be long term. I just see that thing as paying off my kid's student loans when he has them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's weird to see the prices at some of the vertical, flawless, patch autos of Tom Brady later in his career. It's crazy to see how much those are selling for. And yet you look back at his Contenders rookie ticket auto, and even the Bowman Chrome refractor. There's just not a lot of choices for high-end rookie Brady stuff. And the pop isn't that high in that stuff either. So I'm surprised the value isn't higher.
Well, yeah. And I showed you some of those early I don't know if I showed you, Caleb, but I showed Justin early Super Bowl. They were Super Bowl on-card autos. They were, and they had a patch of the football, game-used football from the Super Bowl. And they were going for, I think a few of them sold for like $4,000. Like on-card Brady from a Super Bowl with a game-used patch from the game.
$4,000 is cheap.
Yeah, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's Brady. I'm starting to think Brady's undervalued right now. 7 Super Bowls later, he's still undervalued.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think, Brady, anything Brady rookie auto, when we were going through that GOAT trend and, the 86 Jordan Fleers were going through the freaking roof, I think, could you imagine if, when we go back through that cycle and we go back through the GOAT trend again, if Brady, you have a PSA 10, rookie auto, how much that's going to surpass any Jordan card, being up in the GOATs. What did that Contenders auto go for? Was it 3.5?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
the last one
could be. We come back around in X amount of years, $7-8 million card.
Right, that's true, and it just trickles down. I mean, if something's high, then it just trickles down as far as what maintains its value and what goes up in its value. So then the base tickets, the authentic auto 10s, they just go up in value.
I think the one thing that hurts that card though for design wise is the auto's tough to see. And that there's no, and I know it's early, it's an early year product. I'm not, bashing on it necessarily, but the auto's tough to see and there's really no hollow foil on it. So I'm not sure if people, look at like the exquisite stuff and just even like 2003 for LeBron. I mean, that stuff looks fantastic, right?
Oh yeah, the eye appeal on that is 10 times better than a Contenders auto.
So maybe that has something to do with it because I'd have to look at comps, but I think the Bowman Chrome Refractor for Brady is pretty damn expensive compared to the ticket autos.
Yes, I'd say honestly they're about comparable.
Okay.
Like you can find a Chrome, like a Chrome Refractor BGS 8. I think they're going for like 40,000, which would be the equivalent of like a 7 or an 8, a PSA 7, PSA 8 Contenders auto. So, but I'd say it's similar. Obviously, once you get into higher grades, I mean, things just separate. Just because, I mean, finding a 10 refractor is, next to 0 on the pop report. So, stuff like that. I mean, but even the lower grades, I think they're pretty similar in value now. I don't know. Maybe the reason why it's still low is just because football is just not as big as basketball. But at the same time, like, how much of the current collector and hobby, how much of that is Americans? Like, I understand there's a growing worldwide market, and that's big into basketball and arguably getting bigger into soccer too. But how much of like the football market and the American market drives that as well? So I don't know. I feel like football's got to explode at some point. Just seems undervalued.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the one thing that's been weird, and I don't sell much like on eBay probably compared to a lot of other people, but
I haven't sold on eBay in probably a year and a half. I can't stand the fees. It's stupid.
I know. And the returns and everything.
I think like I saw someone post on Facebook on one of the groups they had like sold a card for $150 and paid like 18% in fees. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
But the one thing I have noticed is the little bit of basketball I've sold versus football. I'd say over half the basketball is going to like a Ship My Cards or like somebody that's located in China or Canada or nowhere in the U.S. and I'm shipping it to one of those port type things.
Yep.
So I think I think for a while there I kind of underestimated the international nature of basketball. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a big presence, but it might even be bigger than what we think. And football doesn't have that level. Interest.
Maybe it's me just not being as huge into the market as I used to be, or understanding the market like I probably should. Just because, I mean, all three of us have only truly been back into collecting for probably the past 3-4 years, really.
Yep.
So our understanding of the market is, and not understanding worldwide market, might be a little bit of our own issue, our own ignorance, our own naive towards the market, our own naiveness, if that's a word. But kind of going off of that, I mean, I've sold a couple across the world. Like I sold a guy my contemporary 9 or contemporary 8.5, the red LeBron rookie. Sold that to a guy in New Zealand, paid $9,000, and it was easy, swift transaction. Guys, I mean, it was great. It's just sometimes you don't really understand until you kind of put it out there or try to sell something worldwide. But I don't know. Maybe I'm missing that. I don't know. We'll see.
No, I think because of soccer getting popular again, I think we're starting to see the worldwide trend. You can see it with F1, since F1's a global racing sport. You're getting F1 Topps Chrome boxes at $650 a pop, and I think the Sapphires are like $900 a pop or something like that. So, I think the global market of the global sports, those cards got more notoriety, and I think it brings everything else up with it, because I think everywhere else across the seas, it's kind of like in auto racing for us. I always say that the drag racers in Australia and Europe are a year behind whatever we're doing in America. So it takes, a year for them to catch up to see and do whatever we're doing, no matter with the internet or whatever. So I think the outside of the U.S. borders, they're catching up right now, and I think it's just going to continue to climb.
Yeah. Well, Justin, what do you think about the soccer market? Do you spend any time in the soccer realm, or are you just mainly basketball and football?
Yeah. I honestly, I've never really had a ton of interest in soccer, and kind of where I'm at, with trying to really be smart with purchases. For me, I consider myself kind of like an investor, but I do just love having cards that I believe in, or, players I watched growing up. It's kind of what started me on like the Adrian Peterson PC. So I haven't really dabbled much into the soccer market, just because you really got to learn the markets in and out, I feel like, to really maximize kind of the potential for gains and stuff. I saw a really interesting, kind of along the topic of international stuff. I can't remember who it was. Somebody on Instagram, wasn't a super popular account. They posted something about like cricket, like being one of the most watched sports in the world. And they're just going back, picking up like 1940s, 1950s of some goat of cricket for like $20 for one of those cards, just as kind of like a lottery ticket. And I like that kind of stuff. It's fun to see people really get creative. And, I feel like a lot of times I think outside the box, but there's always people thinking even beyond. So,
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you bring up a good point. Probably some things that we've seen in the market here recently, probably within the last 2-3 months, is people are trying to find the new, like, exploding thing. So, like, what was it? Like, last month, someone was buying all the Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer rookies from 1998 or something. Someone was buying Serena Williams rookies, and, who's buying Danica Patrick rookie cards, or Jimmy Johnson. And, like, they're just trying to find a niche that people haven't gone to yet, or people haven't hit yet, and then trying to make money off of it. I think it's smart. I mean, if you're spending that much time and you're understanding the market and understanding that it hasn't been exposed yet, then I mean, there's money to be made in those things. But I mean, like you said, you got to believe in it. If you find something that you really love, you got to believe in it. And if you believe in it, that's better than going half-hearted into something and then just pulling your money out a week later. So
like mine, besides, the major sports, my favorite cards to collect are boxing, because I love boxing sports. Neil, I have my Muhammad Ali collection. I have a Muhammad Ali autograph.
Old wrestling.
Old professional wrestling. So I bought at the beginning, I would say beginning of COVID, 2 boxes of 1991 KO boxing. And it has like Roy Jones Jr.'s rookie, Lennox Lewis rookies, and a bunch of other cards that, boxing cards weren't produced for these guys. So it has a ton of them. And, I opened a box and then held on to a box. So I opened the box and I'm just, probably a couple months ago looking through card prices, and they're so low pop. Like the Sugar Ray Leonard card is going for like $12,000 right now. And in my desk that I'm sitting at, I have a couple of them, plus all these other boxing cards. And it's not because, boxing, I thought boxing was going to make money. No, I just like collecting boxing cards. That Muhammad Ali auto out of 3. So the before Parkinson's autograph, very, very rare to get. It's out of 5. I bought it 3 years ago for $108.
Yeah.
So, and it's past, 3,000-4,000, probably what it would go for. So, and these are things that I probably would never even get rid of. It's because I like the sport and it's the things that I like to collect. It might not be the, the hustle and flow of basketball or football, but it's, things that mean most to me. My Joe Frazier auto, my Larry Holmes auto. So stuff that I like to collect. If I have a Mike Tyson autograph picture in my game room, if I could get a Floyd Mayweather or something, people look for, if you're looking for that kind of niche, like that's kind of what I was doing, but I was looking at it more of this is what I enjoy to collect. Same thing with professional wrestling. Now I got into it. Started finding professional wrestling stuff a little bit too late, because as soon as people started figuring out the 83 wrestling all-stars and the Ric Flair rookie and the Hulk Hogan rookie, like I was late to the game to that. So that's why I spent so much money on that damn Ric Flair card. But to me, it's worth it because Ric Flair's, to me, one of the greatest entertainers of all time. Yep. So no matter what the grade on the card is, I have the card. They're not going to produce any more of those cards.
Right.
I have the card.
It's not Pokemon.
It's not Pokemon. I'm glad I got rid of that Charizard, even though he can't blow.
That reminds me, I'm still waiting on a sub from July last year, July 2020, for 3 Pokemon cards.
I'm 6 months in on a 20-day sub to Ryan.
Talk about me waiting a little bit past the prime of when Pokemon was going to sell. Good.
He did say he's got 9 subs coming back this weekend. So I'm praying that, all whatever 6 Charizards that were in there come back, even though they're worth about a quarter of what they were when they left.
Yeah, exactly.
But whatever.
Hey, Caleb, I want to ask you too, down the wrestling theme, I think it was like around December. So one of the big, news stories was The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, his Bumblebee card selling for a crazy amount.
Mm-hmm.
John Watson was one of the ones that bought him. But like somebody like The Rock, I don't know how much longer he has in terms of like shelf life, in terms of, being relevant. I mean, he could be around another 10 years, 20 years, but it seems like the bulk of his career is probably behind him in terms of acting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still see, like, at that price point with a low pop of like a Bumblebee card of him, do you see that as a long-term investment or something that, maybe it's better to get on somebody in the beginning of their prime with a quirky situation like that?
I still think it's a good investment, and the reason being is The Rock right now, and I think for the next 10 to 20 years, will still be the most popular person in America. I think he does run for president, and think about it, as stupid as it might be, if he does get elected president, whatever that card is worth, that Bumblebee card when you got it, think about what it is if he's the number 1 person in the world. Not just in acting or in entertainment. And that's kind of where I see Ric Flair, and why I kind of go the Ric Flair route, is when you think of the greatest entertainers of all time, you have to put Flair up top. So to me, if you can get, no matter what the PSA grade or BGS grade is, if you can get some of those, because once those guys are gone, when they pass away, there'll never be another person like them.
So does that mean that we should start looking not necessarily into sports, but entertainers?
Look at Jay-Z. Jay-Z had 2 autos that went over $15,000.
Yeah. So is that something that we should probably invest in too, as like an entertainment and relevancy, helping their card values? I
think so, but it also, you got to look at who's pushing the market and who's going to push it. Like, if I'm going to collect The Rock, I'm going to collect The Rock because I watched wrestling growing up and I was a huge Rock fan. If I like Jay-Z's music, I'm collecting Jay-Z. If I could find, let's say, trying to think of some rap group autograph. If I could find that, so like if the entire Wu-Tang Clan had a cut auto from Leaf,
me and you are both buying that.
I'm buying that, and think about what that would be worth, because that Wu-Tang is a good example. So RZA, who obviously one of the original members, one of the original artists, created an album that was just solely one was made. It was a one of one. It was never played for anybody except for the one person that bought it. It was in a special case, and like part of it was supposed to, part of the deal was you were never allowed to release any of this music, this and that. A one-of-one record album from the Wu-Tang Clan sold for $20-something million. Like,
that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
But it's, it's kind of what the market is. It's whatever somebody's willing to pay for something.
Yeah. No.
And Neil, look how much the NBA has changed too. It's more of an entertainment industry than what it used to be.
Yeah,
right?
we talked about that. We talked about that last week, is how much, entertainment. And I'd like to hear your opinion, because I think you probably have a better idea about this than me or even Caleb. But how much does that play a part?
Yeah, I think it plays a huge part. And honestly, I was looking recently at potentially, I love national treasures, man. I know everybody does, but there's some players that are really good that just their NTRPAs are undervalued. Like I'm looking at like Paul George, right? Like his true NTRPA, nasty patch, 9.5 grade. You can get it for a couple grand. And I know playoff P and people, slander Paul George, but I think it's that entertainment aspect. He's got that kind of like he's just not a likable player. And
what about Russ?
What's up?
What about Russ?
Russell Westbrook's, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I think
he's love-hate for sure.
Yeah, I think
love him or you hate him.
I think like the general, like older, like higher end, like older collector, like doesn't like Russell Westbrook. But I think a lot of people like, 20s and younger, I think they love Russell Westbrook in terms of, the attitude, the effort. But a lot of the old school kind of like collectors grew up where, Jordan didn't really talk much about politics. He didn't show a lot of flair in the court for how good he was. And now you see Trae Young, waving at the crowd after one good game, which I like. That's entertainment. But that's a lot different than like, if I was talking to my dad about Trae Young, he's going to think he's a villain. There's a lot of people out there thinking that, where I think a lot of the younger generation sees that as kind of, that's entertainment, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, from like, it's tough because I agree. I think entertainment, but it's almost like you can get caught on the bad side of being an entertainer. And Russ kind of toes that line. Paul George toes that line. Does Trae Young end up towing that line? I think Luka is just lovable by everybody. Like everybody loves Luka. The only thing that I think the old haters hate is that he cries a little more than everybody, but everybody in the NBA cries. I mean, everybody in the NBA cries. Yeah. But as far as Trae goes, if he takes on that villain role, that might hurt his card value just because people don't like the villain role. Maybe people like the hero more. I don't know.
But wasn't MJ like he was way like even in his prime, right? Michael Jordan, like he was kind of a villain to a lot of people. Like I think we overlooked that, right? Like I mean, like I've talked about, like my dad's, huge Pistons fan. Obviously, MJ was, the worst, the devil at the time. But looking back at it, my dad has nothing but the GOAT kind of comments to say about MJ.
So how does that play for people like LeBron and Kevin Durant, who like people just get tired of seeing them in the spotlight all the time? Is it something to where like we don't appreciate the greatness now because it's been there so long that we're just kind of tired of it and they're just the villain?
I honestly think so, yeah. And like, I mean, LeBron, since, he was in high school, all over SportsCenter, and like how many people like Bryce Harper, these athletes that are just constantly flooding every day in the news and everywhere. LeBron's done that for like, 19 years now? He's been 18 years in the league. So I think there's that fatigue, and then just little things that come up when if people disagree with politics or disagree with, the calls or some of the comments, like that just kind of fuels their already made up mindset. Like when LeBron retires, I think he'll get more respect, but I don't think he's going to get more fans like MJ did, because I see LeBron staying like more in the media than MJ is. So that's kind of a tricky one.
What happens, and I've said this for a while, and I will continue to say it, what happens when all those MJ diehard nut huggers decide that they're going to all pass off into the next realm and they die, and everybody that's left is all the LeBron fans? You know, what happens to that? Kind of the example I can give is Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle. So you got a bunch of people, the older generation, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80-year-olds, who all they grew up knowing was Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth. And then now you have these 30, 40, and 50-year-olds who grew up knowing Mickey Mantle, and now Mickey Mantle is the most desired player over Babe Ruth. You know, does the same thing eventually happen with Michael Jordan and LeBron James? You know, does it die off to where the old generation dies off with Michael Jordan and the new generation becomes more relevant with LeBron James because he was the last player and he's still relevant within history, within entertainment, within politics, within everything else?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. I think a lot of the iconic Jordan stuff, though, it kind of like we see with old baseball, right? Like overall, the baseball market doesn't really live up to like the basketball market, at least like for the most part. But you look at the old stuff, right? Like you're saying, like the Mantles, the Ruths, you name Honest Wagners. Those are the ones usually setting the records. So I think like the Jordan Fleer, like PSA 10, right? It's like got a 200 pop or so. That's more seen as like art and iconic than it even is Michael Jordan himself. So I think like the highest end, MJ stuff is going to have that appeal. They're going to see it more as like a status symbol or like a iconic piece, or the high end MJ stuff, than actually like Michael Jordan investment.
So then does LeBron reach that? Does he become an iconic art piece? I would assume so. I mean, why wouldn't he be? Especially with his relevance within humanitarianism and, creating schools for underprivileged kids, political, stances, things like that.
Yeah, I think he does. The one thing, like, kind of recently, though, I was thinking about, like, with LeBron James, he's such a polarizing figure that I don't see, even after he retires, if he's staying relevant in the media, that's what a lot of people don't like him for, honestly, like a lot of that older generation. So I think you're going to have, like, the two groups that either like him or don't like him just kind of get stronger in their ways. So I don't necessarily see, like, where MJ kind of went silent for a while, and I think that helped his case. It kind of depends on if LeBron kind of takes that approach, which we guess he wouldn't, because, he likes to use his platform for what he thinks is good. But a lot of times, he does slip up, or there are things that people disagree with, and I think that's going to continue. So
fair point. Caleb, thoughts?
I don't like Michael Jordan. Reggie Miller all day. We want to talk about villains. If Michael was the villain, Reggie was the villain for.
Hey! Speaking of, we got Detroit Pistons and Indiana Pacers on right now. Do we need to talk? Do we need to bring up the brawl?
Yeah. Do we need Ron Artest to show up and
right?
Jermaine O'Neal to knock out the exec.
So if we want to jump into that real quick, so here's something funny. So. I rarely watch basketball. I like the Pacers when it's playoff time. The rest of it, I could care less. I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan, diehard through and through. So Neil, this is at the old house. So I'm at the old house sitting up in the loft, and it's like, probably 10:30, 11 o'clock, getting ready to go to bed. So the brawl happens, and it's live on TV. Like, I'm watching it live.
Yeah.
And I just sprint into mom and dad's room and kick it. I said, the Pacers are fighting the fans. It's the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah.
And just the aftermath after that, it was amazing. Looking back at it, watching Jermaine O'Neal just cold cock somebody on the court.
It was great.
What is the greatest thing of all time?
I remember seeing that. I was at my grandma's house. And she was a diehard Pacers fan. Like, she thought they were the greatest people in the world, so nice. and then they just start wailing on fans, and she's like, "Oh my god!"
It's like the dudes fighting Zion in the parking lot we talked about last week.
Right.
Like,
That
you
is
know,
right.
if I'm a normal sized human being and I've maybe had a hot dog or two at the game, I'm not stepping out on the court trying to throw hands with, you know, Ron Artest, who's got twice my arm length and is probably about 8 inches taller than me.
Yeah, definitely not. Hard pass on that.
No.
I don't know, Justin. You're 6'4". You might take
I'm
a swing.
6'2", man. Maybe if I wear heels, I can get to 6'4". But
Still taller than me.
yeah, but like even 6'2". I mean, you stand next to a professional athlete, a point guard. You know, they're 6'5", 6'6". You know, a lot of them. It's crazy the difference. Like, you know, like NFL linemen. You know, they're 6'7", 350. You know, they're like, people don't realize the size of a lot of these athletes. And I mean, I'm taller than most people, thicker than most people, but to stand next to somebody like I'm dwarfed. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was working at I went back in 2013. I worked for the Colts and for like a summer internship for school, and I worked one of the games. We were playing against the Texans, and I was handing out Gatorade on the sidelines, you know, water boy, and JJ Watt comes screaming in from the sidelines, and I just go, "Oh God!" I just put my head down.
Well, I had to
Gatorade.
I had to play against some of those guys in college and try to tackle some of those guys. Like,
yeah, well,
freaking monsters.
I'm not that athletic, so I can't speak to that.
I'm not that athletic anymore. That's why I'm a semi-retired athlete.
Yeah. So, Justin, a couple more things. What are some hot takes that you have, or what are some educational things that people need to pay attention to that we're in this kind of down market? We kind of talked about it earlier, but what are some things that you need to have, or you think people should pay attention to? And then after this, we'll segue into kind of what we're looking at the national, and, you know, what are your thoughts on that moving forward? So,
yeah, I think one of the big things right now to pay attention to, we talked about the pop report a lot. Kind of what I'm seeing too is, you know, in terms, I see popularity in RPAs kind of continuing to grow. You know, there's a lot of, you know, base cards, silver cards, all kinds of stuff. But when you're talking an on-card auto with a nice patch, and pretty much every RPA is numbered, I think RPAs are a good buy in a down market. And then you can, you know, pick your poison. You know, like you've got some of like the less known, still decent quality, like Noir. Obviously you got Flawless NT towards the top. I think Immaculate's a great buy for really any sport. I mean, other than baseball.
Caleb, that's your favorite.
It's not licensed. So I think Immaculate RPAs are a really good buy. And then, you know, whether it's quarterbacks or it's basketball, whatever that is, you know, it's got enough hollow foil on it. You know, it's got the on-card auto. It's a nice looking card. Like if you were to put Flawless, Immaculate, and NT in front of somebody's face that had no idea about cards, I don't think people would think Immaculate being so much further behind those. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're investing in an RPA, you stick to those three. Like I know you brought up Noir, but like even with Noir, like long term, Flawless, National Treasures, Immaculate, those are going to be the ones that play out. And there's plenty of cards in each one of those to choose from and to hold long term. So I think those are definitely.
Do you think it's the black and white kind of design of Noir that kills it, or do you think just the name brand isn't?
I don't know, because the black, like the midnight, some of the midnight first off the line, and like the what do they call it for like National Treasures? Like red, white, and blue ones.
Yeah,
Stars and Stripes.
Yeah, the Stars and Stripes. I think those look good with some cards. The midnight, I think some of those midnight ones look sick, like just sick. And if you get a good one with like not a lot of wear on the corners and it actually grades well, like that's a very low pop card and a very nice card to have long term.
Yeah. So yeah, for me though, it's just like it's finding those stick to number cards. You know, you guys mention every show and tune in. And
do you think silvers are going to be the new base from now on? Like if you're going to be investing in like if you want the Luka Doncic card, do you think people are going to be like, well, you got to have the silver now because the base there's 16,000 in the base in the pop report.
Yeah.
Why even get
And 500 more just went into the pop report.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I completely think so, because if you look like the Topps Chrome Kevin Durant rookie, that's like a pop of about like I think it's like half the pop of a Luka Silver Prism.
Yeah,
like if you're looking at a lot. So like just like
1,000, isn't it?
1,200. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but if you're looking at like, back in the day, even like the LeBron Topps Chrome, right? It's like a 2,100 pop for a PSA 10. And now you're looking at Luka Silvers having a similar pop. So I think silver is the new base. I mean, every pack you're getting silvers, But the weird part is with that is I was doing some research about football, because I know football is kind of the thing in everybody's mind right now. But I was looking at Kyler Murray, right? So I think one of the things kind of towards the end here that I've noticed is, I think in our minds, whether we're basketball first, football first, we brand certain or we label certain brands as being like a high pop, or and if you really dive into the pop reports for each year when it comes to like select field level, when it comes to Silver Prism, there's a lot of disparities based on year, based on sport. So for example, the Kyler Murray Silver Prism rookie, it's a pop 150. So there's only 150 PSA 10s. If you're looking at the base Prism, there's 2,100. So it feels like the silvers are a lot more rare. At least maybe they're hard grade. Maybe there's a defect. I'm not sure. But I mean, if you would have said a Kyler
2,100 is still really low, though.
It is, and I mean
that's the same as a base. If you're talking 2,100 for a base, that's the same as the Chrome LeBron, right?
Right. And
isn't the refractor PSA 10? Isn't there only like 150 in that pop too?
Yeah, I think it's like 170 or so for
LeBron. So about the same parallel, right?
Yeah. And I think people, in their heads think field level or courtside silvers being like a short print. But weirdly enough, for Kyler Murray, his rookie year, for that silver field level, it's a pop 392.
Yeah.
So it's 2.5 times the pop of the regular Silver Prism, where for me, coming from basketball, with Luka and stuff, like that Silver Prism, Silver courtside rookie is kind of like a grail kind of shiny.
Yeah, I think people are trying to, because I used to own a courtside copper, remember? Yeah. And a Luka courtside copper, and people kept saying, no, the silvers, they're more desirable. The pops are a lot lower. And I was looking at the pops on it, and like the pop on a silver is like right around 70 right now. But the pop, I'm obviously on a numbered copper out of 60. I was like, if I have something that's I know is definitively out of 60 versus something that's a silver, that's just a refractor, I kind of want the copper over the silver. Like, aesthetics aside, numbered card, like for me, I want the numbered card over just that court side, just because you don't know how many more boxes haven't been opened. The pop could still go up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it brings us back to our early point of eye appeal. Some people just like that shiny look, and it's just over like a grainy checkerboard type look. Like if you look at like Optic rated rookie checkerboards recently, the pop's pretty low, but they're pretty cheap, for being short printed. I know Optic as a brand has kind of gone downhill with this dip, but people like the shiny look.
Yeah. Why do you think that? Why do you think Optic has gone down so much when it has the same aesthetics as Topps Chrome?
I've honestly wondered the same thing, Neil. I was kind of all aboard the Optic train early, like last year when it first came out. To be honest with you, the only thing I can really think of is I just think the photos are kind of trash. Like you think of Zion holding the ball, Luka, Trey. There's not a lot of like in-game type action. There are a lot. It's just
that's a good point.
And a lot of times we've already seen that pose in other cards already in the year because Optic comes out a little later. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the exhaustion between Don Ross and then you've got Optic. It's just seen as a lower end brand. It just has that kind of like stigma to it. And
modern has too much produced, so it just draws the interest away.
Yeah, and it does have that Topps Chrome feel, but I think people respect it back in the day because that was considered the great. But then ever since 2012 with 2012 Prism kind of killing it, at least looking back, that's what we think now. I think that kind of set the trend for the design moving forward to today.
Yeah, I wish Topps would come back and do basketball.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I
That
think
would make
everybody-
this so much better. Just steal all the rights back, please.
Yeah.
Please come back. Tops, you have enough money. Come back, please. If you're hearing this, please come back. So, all right, last thing, and then we'll get into gambling. I don't do a lot of gambling. Maybe you do, but last thing we'll hit that we've kind of talked about a little bit, but want to talk about now is the national. Now we're talking about, what is it? What's the day? The 20th?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're talking about like 35 days from the or 38 days from the national.
Yep.
So, what are you looking forward to the most in the national? Because this is your first time, right?
Yes. Yep.
So what have you heard about the national? What are you looking forward to the national? And what are kind of the plays? How are you going to organize yourself when it comes to that stuff?
Yeah. What I've heard about it is it's, bigger than anything you can imagine, right? Like I've only really gone to local shows in like the Michigan area. So, you think like a 4-hour stint at a card show, you can get to everything. And at the national, you literally need the multiple days to be able to even, experience most that's there. For me, with this dip, we're seeing it now, like cash is absolute king. And I know, Neil, you've started liquidating things too. I think having that cash on hand, you're going to be able to get, a grail or maybe a football thing you want to flip in a couple months. I think that's going to be available for cash, and you're going to be able to pay, comps or under comps. So I'm trying to work on that, liquidate some things. And I think what I want to do too is kind of make a checklist of things I want to look for. So, and go through there and, spend the first day kind of taking in as much as I can, finding what's available, and then go from there, right? Not rush to a decision. But if something comes up that I'm after, be ready with cash or with trade to pull the trigger. Because that, there's only so often you can make that high end trade, with something there and they're willing to on the spot. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've kind of seen that as like, and what I've heard just from talking with other friends, Dallas Card Show, going down to Miami for the shows, Wisconsin Dell's show, like, what you said is true. Like cash is king. Cash is more king. Like having actual physical cash is more king than having, $10,000 in worth of trade. People want the money. I don't know if that's because it's down and people just want to liquidate some stuff just so that we don't feel like that everything's tied up in cards. But yeah, I've started liquidating my cards, some of my PC stuff, just because I know at the national I'm going to need cash. So
yeah.
I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready.
And I think part of the cash being king too is like we've constantly talked about is the numbered cards, the rarity continues to kind of be the focus. So it used to be, you'd show up with a Topps Chrome LeBron PSA 9 and, they'd trade that pretty much for equal cash of whatever it's going for. Where now I think, maybe that person wants to buy like a black border Topps out of 500 rookie LeBron,
like what you got.
or whatever it is. So I think they want they don't want the base cards, right? Like they'll take them if they can quick flip them, but you can't really flip stuff super quick right now, at least the base. So everybody's kind of got that, like whether it's a high-end grail or just like a numbered type card, that's what they're after. So unless you're trading that stuff, which I think a lot of people don't want to give up right now in this market, it's kind of difficult. And so I think that's why cash is king.
Do you think a lot of the fatigue is basketball related, or is it just fatigue across the entire market?
I think it's fatigue across the entire market, but I truly think it's just kind of with everything with COVID. I think it's a pretty direct correlation, right? Where we had a pretty good stint of about a year where sports cards were really hype. And then after that, with things starting to open up in the US, the vaccine coming out, people, depending on if you're like a hardcore investor, like a casual collector, you could sell that one card out of your collection and take the family to a vacation, or you can do things that you weren't able to do. Yep. And it's the summertime, right? People want to be out, and the government's been supplying money, so it's not like for a lot of people it wasn't a financial issue before, and they've maybe saved up and had more expenditures now, and then they're gonna explore that because for the last year they've been pent up, in the sports card game to kind of distract them through a pandemic.
Yeah.
So
So Justin, going into the national, your game plan, are you looking sports specific or player specific?
Player specific. So like Neil said, Tom Brady, Steph Curry. Those are two. I'd really like a Russell Wilson Contenders rookie auto. You know, a lot of
nice.
those are pretty faint. So I'd love like a 9/5/10 auto. I've seen a lot of PSA 10s that probably would be 9 autos. So
he's streaky on his autos. He's very streaky.
He is.
He's a hard one to catch.
And that's kind of where I was saying earlier. I think if you know that stuff, you can use that to your advantage. Where the average, you know, maybe somebody that's not as, you know, involved in sports cards and like, oh, you know, I want to get that Russell Wilson. There, you know, if you buy a PSA 10 with no auto grade and it's got that little bit of streaking, I'm probably going to pass on it if it's at PSA 10 price. I'll take the 9/5/10 auto for whatever percentage off that is for a 9/5 grade and ensure that it's a 10 auto.
Yeah, I agree. 10 autos are definitely a thing. You definitely like, even if it's a 10 auto and it's like getting to be like just fading. Like I want that deep blue. I want the deep blue. I want the deep black color. Yeah. I want that thing to look good. And it's hard to preserve, but I want that thing to look good.
Whenever it was blue ink and it's turning black, you know it's a red flag.
Yep. 100%.
So undervalued. I'm thinking of undervalued players, not modern. I mean, I guess you can consider this modern. And I'm just kind of doing some research as we're talking. Justin, your thoughts? Is Calvin Johnson rookie cards undervalued?
I think they're pretty accurate right now. So we saw the spike during kind of the induction. Mm-hmm. Calvin Johnson's not somebody that's in the media. I mean, he's a little bit local news. He's kind of like the head of some cannabis stuff in Michigan, which is kind of neat. But he's not somebody that's going to be in the news a ton. And I think, you know, the way the league is now, you know, it is softer in the NFL. So in offense is way up. So somebody with a shorter career like Megatron, I think there's going to be people like total yardage and stat wise are going to pass some of those thresholds. I think the lore of him, you know, getting double teamed and, you know, that level of dominance is always going to be there. But I don't see like, you know, people pouring a bunch of money into Calvin Johnson in the future. I think like Adrian Peterson's a better alternative because he's got the Hall of Fame coming up, cemented as one of the best running backs, you know, at least in the modern era. And his stuff's pretty cheap as well. And that hasn't seen the same level of spike that Megatron saw with the Hall of Fame stuff.
Yeah. So. Cool. Well, let's transition over to last thing, betting. I suck at betting, so I will let Caleb take this.
Well, I apparently suck at betting too, since I bet on Roy McIlroy to win, who was plus 500. He was tied for second. I don't even want to look to see where he finished. He finished tied for seventh. Damn you, Rory. So I lost $70 real quick. We don't have to get super into betting, but I'm just going to look at some of the games. And
how about this NBA? Who you taking? I know nobody's probably seen what's going on tonight. Who are you taking tonight? Game 7.
I'm looking at it right now.
Is it a 7.5 line?
Don't tell me.
I think it's a 7.5 line for Philly, right?
7.5.
I think they were favored. Yeah.
Well, then I'm taking Atlanta plus 7.5. If I'm betting, I'm taking Atlanta plus 7.
Agreed.
Yeah. So right now, third quarter, 10 minutes in, it is 51 the 76ers, 50 the Hawks.
Love it.
Yep. You got the Clippers and the Suns tonight. Suns are 6.5 point favorites.
Suns won. They already played.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking for Tuesday. Sorry, that's Tuesday's game.
So you guys, what do you guys think about the Bucks? They got a chance to win? Here's what I think. If the Bucks play Atlanta, they're going to the finals. They play the 76ers, it'll be really tough because Ben Simmons and Giannis will both shoot 40 free throws each and miss
it's gonna be
50 of them. Yeah. They're so bad.
Terrible.
But right now, it looks like the Suns. The Suns look like the best team, best chance to win, which is good for Chris Paul. He deserves it. Yeah. Been in the league long enough. He's put in his time.
Neil, this one for you. You got Vegas and the Canadians playing right now. Second period, 0-0. Who's going to pull it out?
Is Game 5?
It is Game 5.
2-2?
It is 0-0, second period.
No. What's the series? Is it 2-2?
It is. Let me look. Oh, it's not telling me what the series is right now.
I can't remember what it is. Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought the Avalanche were going to roll through Vegas. Vegas steamrolled us four straight games, and then now they're crapping their pants playing against the Canadians, who I can't even name a guy other than Carey Price who plays on that team who is actually a decent player.
It is 2-1. The Canadians are leading the series.
It's in Montreal. Vegas probably wins that one.
So then tomorrow night you have the Islanders and the Lightning tied up 2-2 in the series. Let's see. The Lightning are 1.5 favorites.
Take the Isles.
Take the Islanders.
Yeah.
Looking at see
if they're 1.5, it'll be a 1-goal game. Yeah, I mean, I guess take the Isles. Again, I suck at betting, so I'll probably lose all of these bets right now.
That's
so
okay.
don't take any of my advice.
Looking at some European soccer games, we got
the Euro.
We got Portugal and France is on Wednesday.
France will win that one.
So that'll be good. You got Sweden and Poland. I am just thinking of the soccer
Mbappe's
cards.
Stuff's got to go up.
I need Mbappe's 9 to go up because I am deep in the hole there. But
yeah, Mbappe's got to start scoring some goals. He's pissing me off right now.
Baseball, not really. There's just too many games at the moment.
Yeah, all the games don't matter in baseball, to be honest.
So, yeah, until our professional sports bettor gets back, I'm just going to look at normal stuff. He's the one.
Do you gamble on anything, Justin?
I really don't. I have, I
besides cards.
Yeah, pretty much cards. I have a pretty addictive personality, so I know my limits. So I've seen it became legal in Michigan.
Cocaine's one hell of a drug.
Yeah. So I've seen too many of my friends get, balls deep in it, and I'm like, man, it looks fun, but cards, at least once you have the basis and stuff, you feel better about putting your eggs in a basket. And I think once you get good at betting, you may have that feeling too. It's just there's something about it that I know I'd have to proceed with caution. So
yeah, totally get that
for sure.
Well, Caleb, do you want to wrap it up, or do you want
to wrap it up? Got to thank Justin SquintsSportsCards for coming on. Justin, let everybody know where they can find you on social.
Yeah. So guys, mainly just on Instagram, SquintsSportsCards. Appreciate a follow. I try to post anything from low end to high end, just anything rare, anything Detroit sports that I like. I love talking, rare cards. If there's anything you guys are interested in buying or need help, I like communicating through Instagram. So please give me a follow. I'll follow back, and we can get in touch on there.
Yeah, if you're selling a Curry or a Tom Brady, let us know.
Yeah, right. Just send that straight to my DMs. Go Sneal.
Yeah.
And then you can find Neil
tell me if you find something.
You can find Neil at Doughboy Sports Cards 1 on Instagram and on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at Showtime Sports Cards or my personal page, Showtime43cc. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I think we were up to a max of like 12 people watching at one time, which was pretty cool. So
it's 33% increase right there.
Hey, we keep going up and up and up. So
hey, I want to say real quick, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I got this today. I don't know if you guys can see that really.
Yeah, your wife let me know about that weeks ago.
Yeah. I got my first rookie card of my son, so that's pretty cool.
Is your logo on
custom card?
Is your logo on it?
Yeah, it's got. I mean, there's a reflection. I'm trying to, but it's got got my logo. It's got Kill's name, rookie card logo.
Good, because I had a hard time trying to get the logo to her without the background in it.
I got to talk to Ryan about getting a custom card because he got the one of the Woody Hayes custom. I want to get a custom RPA. I'm gonna get a piece of his 3-month-old onesie and cut it up and put it inside the card. Make an RPA out of it.
That'd be dope. But remember, follow us on the Dream 3 podcast. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch. And it's on my personal Twitter. So anytime you can see it, please give it a like, subscribe, share it, tell your friends. We'll be back next week with hopefully the Fat Boy comes back with us, gets us some real bets, and we might find another guest. I'll be at the racetrack, but we'll do it straight from the racetrack too. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and listening to us babble for an hour and a half. We'll catch you next week.